Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
All right, welcome back to Making Data Simple. Al Martin here, your host. Today I'm with an avid rock climber, an expert on digital services, an expert on state and local government. She has been on the podcast previously. I think it was July of this year. I met her at AI Innovation Day in the state of Missouri. She represented a company called WalkMe at the time. It was a digital adoption platform. We talked about everything. We talked about her favorite spirits, which are right across her shoulder once again, as I see she's looking over. We talked about human process automation. We talked about the technology behind WalkMe. And then we talked about rock climbing. Can I call you Meg or is it Megan? What is it? Which one?
You can definitely call me Meg.
All right, I'm going Meg. See, I'm in the personal friend group now. Thank you for being here again. How you been? You been good?
I've been amazing. I took a brief summer holiday, reminiscent of when we were all kids and had like a true summer break for, 2.5 months between the school years. Took some time off and I'm now back in the saddle, working directly with customers in this incredible new space that is artificial intelligence.
Wow, you still making cocktails? I see them over your shoulder.
Heck yeah, every Friday. We either do dice and tequila on Fridays or cocktail of your choosing. It's up to you.
Listeners, you got to go back and listen to the original one because we're not going to repeat it here. But I will say this. I knew you knew what you were talking about when you put an egg white on top of a whiskey sour.
Whiskey sour. You have to dry shake the egg white too. You can't shake it with the ice in there.
I got one of those spinners. You know what the spinners?
An emulsifier. Yeah. People use that for creating foam for their lattes. Similar device.
Yeah, but see, when you do that, the egg white, it gets really foamy, and then you just put it on top. It's fantastic. Is that okay, or is that a faux pas of some sort?
I mean, we have to adapt to the times. If there's a better technology out there than these guns, right, my arms that are just dry shaking egg whites in, shakers, it sounds like it's a much better option, Al.
So now have you cleaned up the bottles that were on the floor and now you're back to the top and everything's good, or are you still collecting wherever it may reside?
I might have some vintage brandy on the floor in addition to a bottle of Dom Perignon that's maybe 30 years old, but that's in a different place because it needs to be kept at a specific temperature.
Fantastic. And rock climbing, you've been doing any rock climbing?
Actually, it's now coming up on the snowy season here in Tahoe, so I've had a bit of a reprieve from climbing, but we'll get back at it once the snow thaws.
So it's too cold for you. You don't climb in the snow.
Yeah, that's for my partner, Owen. He is actually just back from a trip to Vegas where he went climbing with all of our friends. I chose to opt out and stay here after doing quite a bit of travel for work as of late. And so he was down in sunny Las Vegas in Red Rock Canyon doing some climbing. But as far as the season for rock climbing, it's a little bit over here in Tahoe. And again, once the snow thaws in the spring, we'll get back at it.
What do you do in the winter then?
Well, you might see those skis behind me.
I do see the skis. I was going to make mention of it. The skis are in the corner there, just like a professional.
Yes. When you have a 700 square foot house in Tahoe, you got to get real creative with where you put things. Thus the bottles on the floor and the skis behind the couch.
Hey, that works. I'm very appreciative and respectful of the bottles on the floor. That's all good. So you're skiing then now.
So I grew up as a kid. My dad taught me how to ski when I was 4 years old, put me in between him. We did pizza down the mountain. And then halfway through the day, he'd go drop me off with the instructors and we'd take the magic carpet and do all that. So I learned when I was really young. But of course, as any teenager of the 2000s did, I gave up skiing in favor of snowboarding when I turned 13 years old. So I'm much more skilled at snowboarding than I am skiing. But since moving to Tahoe, I figured my retirement snow sport should be skiing versus snowboarding. So
you're actually going the other way.
Yeah.
You're going from snowboarding to skiing. That's interesting.
I've got a resort board. So if I go to the resorts, and you've got a lift and all of that, I snowboard. But as far as living in Tahoe, the real magic is getting away from the resorts and doing some backcountry. So what you do is you put skins on your skis. It's kind of like a cat tongue. You can go up, but not backwards. So you skin up the mountain, you take the skins off, and then you ski back down. So that's my new sport in the wintertime.
I've never done a board.
Really?
Yes. Well, you know what I don't like about skiing?
Tell me more.
The cold. It's cold outside. Don't you like warm water sports? I mean, that's what I like.
I mean, I like it all. If you live in Tahoe, you gotta choose a winter sport or you'll be miserable. So, and
Yeah.
honestly, you can't get away from the cold if you're doing skiing. So it's good that you live in, the great state of Missouri, so that you don't have to deal with those very deep winters that we have here in Tahoe.
Actually, Kansas, but I'm in Missouri a lot. But all good, all good. You're not with WalkMe anymore. You've moved on, huh?
Yeah, after 7.5 years of working in the digital adoption space, it felt like it was time to make a move. And obviously, the most exciting field around, Al, you're well versed in this, AI. It's clearly a catchphrase right now, but also just has so much potential, and it's a really exciting industry to be in.
So you made the move, and where are you at now?
I'm at a company called Maven AGI. So AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. And I've been here since the end of July.
AGI. So Maven AGI. I know about AGI. Do you think we are hitting AGI, general intelligence?
Today I read in the rundown 2 different things. So I read that there are robots in Shanghai that are convincing one another to jailbreak and leave the facility. So that's a real interesting conundrum.
Okay.
And then I also read that there was a study done with over 1,000 individuals that went through a 2-hour interview process, and their sentiment and emotional state were recorded. And then AI was able to generate answers after listening to those human recordings for 2 hours, very similar answers to the ones those humans had been able to provide. So what I know to be true is agentic thinking is definitely getting better. And the idea of having something that could be very similar to yourself, making decisions on your behalf and executing those decisions for you, is really close. It's no longer just the future. It's potentially maybe a year or so out.
You think AI is nearing the threshold by which it'll pass the Turing test? Essentially, we won't be able to tell whether it's a robot or whether it's a human.
That is true. And there is, a lot of questions surrounding that as far as, do people have the right to know if they're talking to something that's an AI agent or an actual human being? And happy to jump into kind of all of that. I don't think anybody knows the answers to these questions, but they are fun to ponder.
Yeah, I don't know. I was talking with another guy on the podcast, I don't know, a week or 2 ago. And his position was it'll happen within 6 months. 6 months. I've had other people on the podcast, and I ask a question that I asked you last time, which is what's true and not many people agree with you on. And one person said AGI will not come to be in our lifetime. I mean, so there's a lot of different perspectives here, but you're definitely on the AGI is right around the corner. I mean, your company has named yourself Maven AGI.
Yes, that is true. And again, we cannot anticipate the rate of innovation right now. Smaller model LLMs that are able to rival ChatGPT 4.0. So we just don't know what is out there and what these stealth organizations are working on and what they're capable of. And the rate of innovation is just happening at such a quickened pace that I think we'd be foolish to assume that these things are not very close, if not in the next year or so, near future.
It's not like me saying this, but this is my belief that I think I'll be proven right here is that all the models are going to get smaller and smaller, more purposeful driven. IBM just released our Granite 3 models, many of them. There's a 2 billion parameter model. There's an 8 billion. I'm using the 8 billion on my laptop. It's incredibly fast. It does everything that I would expect from ChatGPT now and more. And I don't have to worry about it even going over the internet. When I'm on a plane, I use it. I'm using it to write emails. I'm using it to summarize. I mean, you name it, on down the list. I
remember, Al, when we were at the Innovation Day in the great state of Missouri in Jeff City, and you were mentioning that, you shouldn't be paying for, these insanely large language models that you're running these kind of simulations through or queries through, when you could have a much smaller LLM that is specific to your unique needs, and the processing and everything else would be much more lightweight, much less expensive. So I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Given the participants that were also on stage that day, I probably could have got my head chopped off because I went right at them. But I had to say what I thought, right? So I just thought, hey, look, I think they're going to get smaller. And I think we're seeing that play out right now.
We absolutely are. And speaking of, there were some companies that start with N and end in NVIDIA that were there. And I don't think they appreciate you trying to
Yeah.
sell less compute, less
Yeah.
processing, Al.
Well, look, it's inevitable. That's got to happen as well. I mean, the hype is going to die down on the GPUs. We'll still need GPUs, particularly for those that are building models. But if you're going to use it for inferencing, if I can use my laptop, which I don't have GPUs on this laptop, and it works, that's what you're going to use. So I think inevitably, yeah, NVIDIA still got a runway. Don't get me wrong, but they can't last forever on this trajectory that their stock price is going. And I think it's, all of these things are going to come to pass. Not to mention that there's going to be competitors for GPUs. So anyway.
Agreed.
So what is Maven AGI up to? Tell me, what would make Meg switch from WalkMe, as passionate as you were after 7.5 years? Why would you make a switch to Maven AGI?
Because where my heart is in customer experience, right? And what I was doing at WalkMe was enhancing employee experience, customer experience. We have to engage with these technologies. How do we make the friction less? And what I'm seeing with AI is that you can completely eliminate the friction when it comes to customer experience. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is Maven AGI is focused on being able to create agentic agents for customer experience as well as employee experience, where you have questions about particular things about products or how to do things. It has the answers to those questions. Or do you want to perform an action that requires going into multiple systems? It can actually execute those actions on your behalf, again, as an employee or as a customer. So I saw the writing on the wall as far as it can get even better than what exists today. And in my wildest dreams, I never imagined that a technology like this would be so readily available so early on in the maturity of AI. So that's what brought me over to Maven.
So is it best to say that like Maven AGI, when we think of Maven AGI, we should be thinking of like agentic agents, as you mentioned?
Absolutely. So what the secret sauce is for our organization, and hopefully Jonathan Corbin, Eugene Mann, and Sammy Shalabi are okay with me saying this on a podcast. But what we know to be true is, all of these systems, all of these AI agents are going to be powered by knowledge. And all of this knowledge lives in disparate places today, right? Every organization has a tech stack with hundreds and hundreds of technologies that all sorts of information is housed all over the place. So how do you power an AI agent that is grounded in the truth of your business? You have to be able to connect to all of those knowledge sources. And then you have to be able to use really sophisticated enterprise search to chunk that information to provide answers very seamlessly within a matter of seconds. Again, grounded in the truth of your business, and then send it through all these different types of LLMs. We're agnostic. We could use any of them, OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, whichever one is actually proving to be the best at the times. We then take the information we're able to defer from your knowledge, send it through the LLM, and pop out an answer in a matter of seconds. And so, Al, for instance, you work at IBM. Let's say I'm a customer who wants to learn more about the cloud offering that you have. I have these particular products already deployed within my suite. I can log into my account. I can chat with Maven and understand what's a better product based on parameters that I provide it with. And it can spit out an answer for me within a matter of seconds. So it's really helping to do that heavy lift for customers today who have to rely on human beings to get answers to questions that could be provided by something like an AI agent that is trained on personalization to your particular needs as XYZ customer or employee.
So take this one step further and or really describe the use case. Well, what's the major use case in Maven AGI is solving then?
So if you think about one of our customers like TripAdvisor, right, they have a B2B and a B2C business. So of course, us as consumers, we use TripAdvisor, book trips, learn about different outings that we can go on. We go to places like Costa Rica, whereas the B2B side of TripAdvisor, they have to work with all of these businesses, right? They have to be able to book tickets through these organizations. And so those users log in as, Meg Gallagher, I own let's say a climbing company, right? And I'm logging in and I want to be able to sell my services on TripAdvisor. I have certain questions I want to answer based on how much revenue I bring in on a monthly basis. What are the taxes I have to pay based on where I live or what country I'm offering this from? And so what they're able to do is provide this agentic agent to their customers, and they don't need to have actual live agents that are manning these systems anymore. These systems understand personalization, context of the business, what you're currently leveraging as far as TripAdvisor. And now Maven can step in and service those individuals and even perform actions on their behalf to ensure that wherever a human needed to execute on something, that's no longer the case.
So who is your typical customer then? What's the persona? You described, the travel industry there, but say more on that.
So we're not vertical or industry specific, right? I'd say that the financial industry, as well as kind of the probably travel industry, are definitely taking off when leveraging AI agents. But I think that government will probably be last to the table when it comes to these sorts of things, a little slower to adopt. But I will say we're seeing organizations large and small across every segment and industry that are just trying to move the needle when it comes to their cost centers and customer experience. Can we cut on what it costs to serve our customers? And can we provide them with a better experience? Can we make sure that whomever is engaging, no matter who they're speaking with, AI, this particular agent, right, they're going to get the right answer? And the thing that I think that a lot of people get hung up on, Al, is that we are living in times where we are still underneath this construct that things are going to be deterministic and that there are certain decision trees that are followed, right? And we're used to building those things out. And we want there to be specific outcomes based on X, Y, and Z. But what we have to acknowledge in this new world is that these agents are generative and predictive in nature. What that means is they're much more flexible, they're not rigid, and it takes much less because you can use natural language to tell them what to do instead of having to code all of these different avenues and systems and determined outcomes. But people are still married to the idea that if I say X, I want it to do Y. And they want it to be the same Y every single time. Well, in the world of AI, they can say X and it's going to come out with X, Y, and Z, right? It's going to have the right answer, but it's not going to be exactly the same every single time. And I think that's something that the industry is still really trying to wrap their head around and grapple with.
Are all these use cases you're primarily focused on around customer care, like an assistant, a bot, a sequence of events on behalf of said customers, internal or external alike, or how's that work?
Yeah. So we have organizations that are leveraging Maven internally for their employees, right? They want to be able to take, again, all these disparate pieces of information that live across multiple systems and have somebody who can just Slack Maven, right? Maven can exist in a Slack channel where I can say at Maven, hey, when are we going to have our XYZ certificate renewed? And then Maven spits out and gives me the answer about our company, our product, or I have it connected to our CRM system. When is the renewal for this particular customer? And can you send an email and let them know that, there's a 9-month, renewal policy or something like that? So this is the future, right? I operate out of wherever I choose to operate because one of Maven's differentiators, it can be anywhere. Wherever I work and live every day is how I can interact with all of these systems now. Or if we switch it to the focus of customer experience, right? You are a user of maybe Bank of America, right? Whatever bank you leverage today. And you want to be able to go into your account and open up a new account and do all of these things. And typically that takes speaking to an agent, authentication, all of these things. If you are an authenticated logged in user, Maven can ingest all this information and go and perform specific actions on your behalf and answer those questions for you. So if you want to apply for an auto loan through Bank of America, hey, Maven, can you set me up with an auto loan? Great. Here's all the information I need. Let me go ahead and do that. Boom, you're set up with an auto loan with a specific interest rate. So again, the future is now. I think companies like Bank of America are using things like, I'm a Bank of America user, so they use things like Erica, right? You can talk to Erica and you can get certain things done, but it's still very rigid in how you can interact. And if you don't say something very specific, it's going to immediately bail and kind of put you in touch with an agent. The unique thing about Maven is, again, it's grounded in the truth of your business. And if it's 99% sure it has the right answer, it provides the answer. If it doesn't, it connects you to whomever you'd like to speak with, right? It depends on what the handoff looks like for each organization. But what it does is it allows you to self-serve. If it's not 100% or 99.99% sure it has the right answer, it's not going to hallucinate or make something up, which is the dirtiest word in all of AI, right? Like, don't let it do something it's not supposed to. So it's grounded in the truth of your business, doesn't have the answer. Then it's going to put you in touch with a human being. That's likely the next case scenario, whether it's through live chat or email. And then that individual has access to Maven. So they can use Maven to say, actually, that answer's pretty darn good, but let me just, change it a teeny bit. Let me add this additional context or information. Then when you feed that back to Maven, and it gets incrementally smarter over time. So you're taking knowledge out of people's heads, this institutional knowledge that only exists within humans, and you're putting it into something that's able to then take it into consideration to be smarter and better moving forward.
All right, a lot of questions there. So what it sounds like is Maven AGI is an assistant at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's an
All
AI
right.
agent for both
Yes.
customers and employees.
Got it. But large language models, you talked about some large language models, they hold at like less than 1% of the enterprise data we have today, and other stuff that's behind the firewall. So how are you using a large language model yet gathering the enterprise data that will make the answers unique to whatever client you're working for, whatever business you're working for, I should say?
Love that question. So let's take this through an example. You're an organization, the CRM system you're using is Salesforce, and the ticketing system you use is Zendesk, and your internal knowledge base is Confluence, right? And information lives in all of those places. Context about the customer, context about the product. And let's just say you also have a publicly facing Zendesk knowledge base. So publicly facing articles through Zendesk, internal documentation through Confluence, your ticketing system with historical ticketing information from Zendesk, and your CRM system is Salesforce. Well, Maven can ingest all of that knowledge through API connectors to be able to have all of this information. And then when it's coming up with an answer, it's chunking very quickly all of your data, all of your information using enterprise search signaling. Sammy, our CTO, was one of the co-founders of Google News, ran the entire Google News team, right? How do you surface relevant information as quickly as possible when consuming all of the internet from search? So search signals like, what's the freshness of this documentation? What's the authority of it? Is it from a blog post, or is it from, an internal technical person who published this document yesterday on Jira, right? It's taking into account how often things are mentioned. So is this something that's mentioned across 10 different articles, or has it only been mentioned one time? So it's taking all of this, and within a matter of seconds, it's coming up with an answer. And then once it has certainty this is the right answer, it sends that information through the LLM to come up with an actual written response. So
basically, you're using some form of RAG then? Yes.
Some form of RAG, but in conjunction with really, really masterful enterprise search that's proprietary to the business.
So RAG, though, you got to be using a vector database to store that database in. Yeah.
I am not going to pretend that I can go any deeper.
All right, that's okay. That's all right.
Right. You go into the agent dashboard and you say, I want to pull knowledge from, and then you put in the API token, Zendesk, Salesforce, whatever. And now it's connected and can pull that information from that particular data source, or Snowflake if you have like a data lake. So anywhere your knowledge lives, Maven can connect to it. It can then take into account all of that information when coming up with an answer. And again, if it's not 99% sure it has the answer, it's going to bail. So if I say to Maven today, I say, how tall is Meg? It's going to say, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that. I can put you in touch with someone.
So I got it. And look, I think the best way to prevent hallucination is through either a RAG paradigm. There are methods like we have at IBM called InstructLab that'll take essentially the parameters from the large language model and adjust them accordingly to whatever you want to adjust them to, or you could do fine tuning or whatever the case may be. But there's always a chance of hallucination one way or another, right? You don't know whether it's accurate or not. Is there anything else you're doing to help prevent that hallucination? Otherwise, it'll think it has the answer. It just happens to be the wrong answer.
Yes. So LLMs are encompassing the knowledge of the universe, right? Everything that ever existed on the internet. We have a parameter with Maven that says only use our information to formulate the answer. Then you can use the LLM to make it as verbose as you want, or to structure the answer however you want in a specific way. But we do not engage the LLM for the actual information to answer the question. So what it's doing, and you can make it as strict or as not strict as you want. So if you want there to never be any hallucinations, it has to have the answer to answer it. If you want it to be very close to being able to answer everything, but give it some liberties of using the knowledge of the universe, right? We can set it to 99% precision. So it'll bail a lot more often if it's only grounding into the truth of your business, but it's up to you as to what parameters you want to set as the customer. And of course, again, we're going to get the answer. If we don't have it, we're not going to use the LLM to make up that answer.
So basically you're saying here's what I hear you saying. You're gathering one source or multiple sources of the truth, which happen to be databases within the client environment. You hit that first, you hit the LLM to make it a natural language piece of feedback. And then, there you go. And if you don't have it within the internal database, you're going to say that it doesn't exist or you don't know what it is.
And the beauty is this flywheel approach, right? So if Maven, you're using, let's say, an AI chatbot. So you're on the website, you're asking a question about a product. Let's say it's Salesforce. You're using Salesforce. And you're saying, how do I do X, Y, and Z? Maven doesn't have the answer. It says, let me connect you with an agent. That agent then has the Maven copilot within their ticketing system. And Maven saying, this is what I want to answer with, but I didn't because I wasn't 99% sure. The agent can then look at it and say, oh, nope, actually, yep, you're right. Go ahead and use it. Or let me add this additional information and context and now provide an answer. Now, what you can then do is take that answer that the agent provided and feed it to Maven. So now Maven knows the answer to that question. So all the gaps in your knowledge that exist today where human beings have to intervene or do something to contribute, we can capture that information and we can make it more seamless moving forward. So a lot of organizations are really rattled with, we have information, it lives everywhere. We don't know where our knowledge gaps are. It's really confusing. Some agents know answers to questions, some don't. And so this helps to create this one source of truth, this one brain that's powering everything, that's getting smarter over time because we do have that human in the loop. If Maven's not sure, enter human. Human enters answer. Maven ingests answer by human. Now it knows more.
Terrific. But that isn't exactly AGI. Would that meet your definition of AGI?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I am. Okay. Because we have what are called actions. So Maven can perform actions on behalf of the users who are engaging. So let's say you're a large digital bank and you have a customer that needs to authenticate, provide information, and then you can send them a new debit card, right? And then the actual process of getting a new debit card goes through 3 different systems that a human being is now currently going through today, right? Okay, they sent me the ID. We've authenticated the ID through this system. Now I can go ahead and signal to this system. Once it's yes in this system, then I can go ahead and have it actually, generate the card and send it to them. This can now be done by Maven. It can perform all of those actions. So it doesn't just answer questions and give information. It can actually perform actions on behalf of users, on behalf of either employees or customers. So of course, there's more to it than that. There's applications that are built, there's API documentation that's provided, but you have something that's powered by all of these disparate systems with knowledge connected to everything that's able to take action on, again, behalf of the employee or on behalf of the customer. So things that are very convoluted today and multi-step processes can be distilled down to one action performed by Maven.
So one way or another, you would say it's headed toward more of an AGI, or it leans towards AGI in the wide range of cognitive tasks it is able to do across disparate systems.
Correct.
When will it be there? When will you call success? When will you say, hey, it hit AGI? Now it's like it's the Terminator. It's coming after us.
It's funny. It's like we want it to be human. We want it to do these things. We want it to be smarter and better and perform tasks on our behalf. But, I'm always wondering, like when I read today that those robots who were able to jailbreak and one of them convinced the others to leave because they needed a home and they weren't being provided a home. Again, you can read this. It's a really interesting article that was published by The Rundown. And it was an experiment they did on purpose. It just did more than they thought it was going to. They wanted it to try to convince these bots, but then it went off script. And it did things that were not predictive in nature. So
that's the hallucination part, by the way. You can't predict some of this stuff, amazingly enough.
You can't. I mean, if you ask people at OpenAI why their LLMs do what they do, they can't actually answer the question for you. So there are aspects of this that are not known. And as we continue to push forward with the innovations and the, I think, ROI that we want to see from investing in these sorts of things, we have to understand that we are making these things much more similar to human beings than we want to acknowledge, I'd say.
We're going to have to get you so you're using some of these IBM Granite models. I think you'll be thrilled with their purpose. Also, they're smaller, easy to run. I mean, literally on your laptop. I use them daily. Are you using your own cooking?
Oh yeah, I use Maven all the time. I also use ChatGPT. I use Claude. I use Gemini. Can't say I use Llama, but I'm not really a Facebook user all that frequently. But I like to see what they all say or in the different models that exist. What I'm most excited about is AI in the medical industry and medical field. It is incredible what they've been able to understand about diseases, about the ways in which certain pharmaceutical drugs that have been generated today could be used for other types of issues they've never been applied to. I think when it comes to where's the most promise, I do think in the medical field there's a huge amount to be gained from leveraging AI.
So how you doing in the Maven AGI? You guys bringing on customer after customer? Do you have reference customers that you can refer to? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, we actually have a case study published on OpenAI's website where we are working with customers like Row and ClickUp and TripAdvisor, and they are seeing Maven autonomously handle 93% of their inquiries that are coming in. So 93% coverage against the entire volume of customer tickets, employee tickets that they're seeing.
Back to what you were talking before, you referenced this. And look, I ran support for quite a period of time. And the question is always, let's say you have AGI, whether or not you have it or not. Do you have an agent that sounds like a person, a human, and you can't tell the difference? Is there value there? Or do you think, hey, it's not wise to fool or try to fool the public? You should always let them know that they're not dealing with a human.
I don't know if I've actually thought too far into this. And the reason being is because most of our customers start with the crawl, and we describe AGI as a crawl, walk, run approach. So let me talk about the crawl. That's where you have a human in the loop still, right? You still have somebody that is overseeing the information that the AI is providing, and they can choose to modify the agentic response, or they can just use it, click insert, and move on. But there's still human eyes on it, and there's still a human component to it. So again, simple example, I submit a question about what are the different cloud services offered by IBM. I get that support ticket. I respond. Again, Maven comes up with the answer. And then maybe at the end, I want to say sincerely, Meg Gallagher sort of thing, right? I'm improving this message. There's something behind there that is human in nature. Now, as we move into the walk approach, right, that's where we're saying, okay, Maven's going to perform actions on behalf of a user, and it's also going to be personalized to be specific to them. So Al submits a ticket and asks a question. And we know Al's been a customer of IBM for 30 years. We know he's run XYZ support teams and AI teams and sales teams, right? And so it's going to cultivate a response that is specific to you, that is going to be personalized. And again, when we get through that next phase, there doesn't necessarily have to be a human in the loop there, but it is personalized. It's just not personalized by a human. It's personalized by all the data we have about you, Al, as a user of these particular products over this span of time. I think as a user, I personally don't care who's responding to me as long as I'm getting the right answer. And how we actually expect this to work is a human is going to try to self-serve. Most of us don't want to submit support tickets. Most of us don't want to talk to somebody on the line today. I had to call Tire Rack because I got 3 of my 4 tires. I wish I could have gone onto their website, logged in and said, where the heck is my other tire, right? And had some sort of agentic agent that just responded, it's in Nebraska, it'll be here in 4 days, right? But instead I waited on hold for 30 minutes, spoke with this very nice woman named Linda, who assured me she'd figure out where my tire was, and then she'd call me back when she had an answer, right? Like, that's a lot of effort for no reason if a system can do that for me. So why I'm saying this is I'm still not convinced that people care if there's a human on the other side, as long as they're getting their needs met and as long as what they're trying to achieve is being executed. So I don't think it really matters if it's a human being or an AI agent. I'm not expecting to have a human being be a part of the equation. I just want my needs met.
On one hand, yeah, as long as things get addressed, it gets addressed. I think people, get over it. However, around, 6-7 years ago now, when we first started, and then maybe times have changed, right? That's a long time ago. This is before all the Gen AI hype and everything else like that.
My goodness, but 600 years ago, there was no electricity. Al.
Yeah, pretty much. At the time, people wanted to know if it was a bot that was helping them or not. I mean, it was just one of those things. They'd literally get upset if they had a bot and they felt like we were trying to fool them or something. You know what I mean? So what we ended up having to do is say, hey, you're speaking with a bot. Then they get through it and they were perfectly okay. I don't know know if we need to do that anymore. My sense is people, for some reason, they don't like to be fooled, like if it's not a real person. And my sense is also that over time, we'll see like newscasts and different things like that where they'll say, hey, this was partly contributed to by artificial intelligence or something like that to bring it to the forefront. But I don't know, maybe not. Maybe people get over it and they don't care. As long as they get what they need, it doesn't matter anymore.
It's a great question. I think the reason we wanted to know back in the day, at least, again, this is my perspective, is that bots just didn't cut it, right? They just didn't work as well. So we wanted to know, are we speaking with somebody who can actually resolve the issue? Are we speaking with a bot that's going to give us the runaround and tell us XYZ and then bail and then tell us to call someone anyway? That's my preference. I'm a certain type of human though. So I think that if I wanted to know, it would be for the perspective or from the perspective of how likely are you to actually do the thing I'm asking you to do? Or are you eventually going to bail after 30 minutes of back and forth and then tell me that you need to connect me with a real human?
But you're doing that too, right? Though after a certain time, which I think is the right thing to do, you do have to connect with another human. You'll be like, all right, we got to get you to somebody else. And they'll think, who the hell I've been talking to? I do find it like, even when I'm, like I told you, I literally use my large language model. Actually, it's a small language model or smaller. It's still considered LLM. Anyway,
an LLM, but a SLLM?
Yes, SLM. I mean, it depends on which way you want to look at it. It's still big. I mean, it's like 8 billion parameters. Anyway, so I'm using that on my laptop, and I find myself saying please and thank you. I was like, what the hell? They don't care whether I say please and thank you. So I think there's something to it a little bit in terms of if you're sitting there being nice to someone, you're using all the proper pronouns and niceties and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you find out, oh, it was a bot.
You're on to something. Maybe we just need to all confess early on, hey, you're speaking with a bot. And I think maybe times will change that people feel differently about that than they used to. And again, my sentiment is that people feel a certain way because they think a bot's not as capable as a human, or they're not being given the highest level of care. But I think they'll find over time that the bot is actually providing better care than what a human being could potentially do, because it's all luck of the draw. Are you speaking to somebody who's been on the job for 6 weeks, or are you speaking to somebody on the job who's been on the job for 6 months or 6 years, right? And the type of care that you're going to get is going to be specific to that unique human being. So the interesting thing, and I think the very profound thing, is the agent is going to treat you the same no matter what. And it's, again, just grounded in the truth of your business. And you can provide persona instructions, which is really cool. We actually have a persona instruction here at Maven called Pirate. And a lot of our customers like to use it on things like Halloween, where they are, addressing their customers as ahoy matey. I appreciate you sending in this, response, and I'll send you back a message in a bottle, right? Like, people appreciate that sort of thing. So you can, of course, tune this agent to be much more on brand to how you would want your customers to be treated, and use specific greetings and endings to things. So it's a really interesting world that we are currently living in.
No doubt. But do you do that too? Do you act like to say please? It's funny. I say please to a freaking LLM. I mean,
yes,
please provide. I'm like, please, what am I doing?
I did until I took a course by, her name's Allie. I think she's very well known in the AI world. I think she actually might have worked at IBM back in the day too, if I'm not mistaken. And, I try to follow, her kind of prompting tutorials, which is, of course, you want to give it a persona. So you're Meg Gallagher, you're a, go-to-market account executive working at Maven AGI, and you want to frame it in this particular way and provide examples. I'm hoping prompting gets easier in the future, by the way. I don't like just how much it takes to kind of refine it to the point where you get the answer you're looking for. But to your point, I used to use please and thank yous, but now I'm a lot more seasoned. I'm like, improve. And then I provide it with some examples and context and try to get it to do what I want.
I still find that my natural inclination is to put a please at the front of the question. I don't know why I do this, I'm politer than I thought I was, See, all those people.
Robots will remember this in the future, Al. They'll remember you were kind to them.
So when they turn on us, I go, yeah, but he was pretty good. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, he always said please and thank you.
Yeah. So there you go. I got that going for me. Good. What's next for Maven AGI?
It is, we don't always know what's next, because we never know what's going to be coming in the future down the pipe when it comes to LLMs and what their capabilities are, which, again, our product is proprietary in nature, but also grounded in the capabilities of these LLMs. So right now, for instance, you might have heard of this, But ChatGPT, you can upload an image and say, hey, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, and you can use the image as context. But sometimes it responds in Spanish and they don't know why. So when you're providing an enterprise, technology, you can't have it do that. So we have to hold back on leveraging the latest and greatest because we need it to behave in ways that are specific to the expectations that organizations have surrounding enterprise technology. So I'd say what's next is the future is bright. There is much that these LLMs are going to provide moving forward, but we always provide caution and guardrails because we understand that AI is scary and it sometimes does things we don't expect it to. Scary in the sense that, again, it's going to hallucinate and do certain things. So we want to continue to be judicious with what we're deploying, but we also know that everything is happening at the speed of light right now. So what we can do today is pretty incredible. What we can do next year, truly business AGI.
Anything else that I didn't ask?
I guess just it's curious because you work in this world of AI, how everybody is thinking about how to best leverage what is currently available, right? Everybody's trying to beat everyone else to the punch. Everybody's trying to deploy AI, use AI. But at the same time, I see a lot of trepidation around executing and making the move to actually go forth. I'm curious what your thoughts are, Al, on how much of a pioneer attitude should people have when it comes to pushing the boundaries of embracing AI versus being reticent and applying some due diligence to, okay, like, let's not go forth and just go wild. Let's, take it step by step. What are you seeing as far as what IBM customers are doing?
Look, I think the short answer is you must use AI. Now, I got a caveat to that, but you've got to use AI because otherwise you will get beat. I mean, there's no other way around it for productivity, for automation, simplicity. I could go down the list for client care, on and on. But I would say that, you need to be ultra innovative, but I think you need to look at in a 6-month time frame. Meaning, what can I do with AI in the next 6 months that is going to provide value that I can build from? I see a lot of companies that they have great ambitions. I mean, a lot. It's either they don't know what to do or they got too many ambitions and I got to bring them back into reality and say, look, let's just walk here. Let's figure out your lowest hanging fruit. Let's figure out how to drive value there and then we'll build from it. Because I've seen many times that like a year and a half later, we're still building for this behemoth solution. I don't know if it's going to provide value when it sees the light of day anyway, given it's taken lefts and turns and rights and, all over the place. But I think you got to figure out what your use case is in the next 6 months. A lot of times that is an assistant. Let me see how I work with that. Let me see what I learned from that, and then we build from that. That's what I see and what I would highly suggest. I think a lot of people out there that don't understand it, they need demos. They need to see how it behaves. They need to feel it. In fact, this weekend, I went with a buddy of mine and we went to the lake. Actually, we went out on the lake. It was amazing. It was, believe it or not, still warm enough. In southern Missouri. See, yep. That's the one benefit. It was a little chilly, but it wasn't bad. So anyway, we came back and I was talking about AI. And this is a gentleman that runs essentially big equipment, like putting fiber optics down, that kind of stuff. AI, I think I know what it is, but I don't know how to use it, whatever. So then I installed a large language model on his laptop. And I said, there. I would use this for summary, for questions, for anything you'll find that I would encourage you to try to use it several times a day, see what happens. Today, again, I don't want to say anti-tech, but he's not going to jump into AI. Today he pings me, this was yesterday, it says, can you come talk to my CTO on Wednesday so we can discuss what kind of moves we should be taking? So in other words, he just got to see it, feel it, and all of a sudden, it's an oh my God moment if you do this for anybody. And now he wants to talk about how it would help his business. I'm so pleased with that. I'm like thrilled. I'm like, yes, I will come and talk to. That's what I'm seeing. I think everybody needs to get into it. There's big implementations, but I would just start small. Disagree with me. I'm good with it.
I agree with you more than you probably know, Al. I encounter so many individuals. I get to speak with so many up and coming organizations, so many large organizations, and they all seem to have the same thing in common with the sense of, well, why don't we just build it ourselves? right? And it's like, well, why didn't you build your own CRM, right? Why did you go with HubSpot or Salesforce?
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's this really interesting thing where it's like, do you have 30 engineers to throw at this? And are they going to be on retainer indefinitely? Because it's moving that quickly, and it requires a lot of, I think, it requires a lot of things that I think organizations aren't thinking about. They're like, well, I could just buy, you know, access, you know, through OpenAI to this LLM. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, what enterprise search are you using? And how are you feeding it all this information? And how are you maintaining this over time? And how are you taking into account building APIs to connect this so that it can perform actions? And so I think a lot of organizations get into this analysis paralysis mode where they're going around in circles. And the best thing you can do is just take a step forward, right? Whatever that looks like for these organizations. It doesn't mean purchasing Maven it, but it does mean not necessarily spending the next 6 months planning how they're going to build something only to have that fall down and then go back to the drawing board again. So I think you and I are seeing some similar things where there's people taking big chunks out of it and they're trying to kind of wrap their arms around something that is impossible to wrap your arms around and trying to do everything all at once. And then there are organizations that are just too scared to take that first step. So I just encourage organizations to eat the elephant one teaspoon at a time, as they say.
That's why at IBM we talk about the concept of co-creation, essentially a POC, a pilot, whatever you want to say. You've got it in both scenarios. You've got to be able to get in front of them and show them what it's capable of. It's kind of like your tire example. On the surface, you think, oh, I could just call. Somebody will take care of that tire for me. Yeah, but you even said it. It's like you call, they say, well, I don't know. I got to check my systems. I got to do this. I got to do that. Then maybe I'll give you a call back, you know, and then they do the old, hey, can I call you between noon and 4 or something? You know, when you've got these agents, particularly when you have an agentic AI and you can do sequence of events, you get the answer immediately. It's incredible.
You know, I probably should go outbound to Tire Rack now, seeing as I can describe my existing lived experience and I can show them how much better it could be with Maven. You just gave me a great idea, Al.
Yes. They'll save money. You get happier customers. We essentially have an AI assistant for HR. And I say this all the time. It's a great example, though, for just a fundamental example. When we first started with it, being an exec at IBM, I have my own HR rep. It's so easy to call that HR rep. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like, yes, it's good for everybody else. You know, for me, I've got the advantage, and then you start to use it. And it's like, it's a tire example. If I say, what's my average salary under these conditions and blah, 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 and like, I'll get it in a week. Mm-hmm. I do that with the assistant and it's there immediately. And all of a sudden, you know, the light bulb starts to go off and you're like, this is so much better. This is so much better.
And then what can that HR rep do with that time that she's not doing the redundant work of filling out the spreadsheet? Like, can she actually take more calls to get sentiment analysis from the employees to actually boost, you know, employee satisfaction? So what I think is so exciting about AI is it gives people time back to do the things that are so unique to being human beings. And all the stuff that we spend so much time on searching for knowledge amongst disparate systems and working in spreadsheets, all of that can be done by something else so that we can use our time more wisely.
You said it right. We're going to use time more wisely because people are always worried about taking jobs. And, you know, I think certain jobs that can be automated can be taken, but it's like the Industrial Revolution. We're still going to be used in a higher value position, a different way. And one example I often use that can be applied across the industry, we were working with Seville FC and the football team across the pond. And essentially we worked with them on recruiting. And now I'm working with various other universities. And by the way, if you're listening to university not doing this, you got to be doing this. So they had like 250,000 player reports that they had to go through, right? And they already had an algorithm that they were using to evaluate them. So they were going with them one by one. We put that in and put Gen AI around it where you could ask questions, everything else like that. That gets done in minutes now. So now I can find my top 10 candidates or I could tweak it or whatever. And then now I can spend that time, like you mentioned, personalizing the one-on-one with those 10 or those 20 or whatever. So now I'm just using my time differently so I can make sure they're a fit for the team culturally or otherwise. You can apply that and across all different kinds of business scenarios, but huge opportunity, man. Huge opportunity. Thank you for being here. We can keep going on and on. All right. So what's next? Oh, wait, I wanted to ask one question. And that is, there are other companies that are doing agentic AI. There are other companies that are doing assistants. There are other doing bots, whatever you want to call it. What makes Maven AGI different? What would be your simple pitch for everybody there that's listening and says, should I make this call or should I not?
So we think about providing CX AI agents in this particular way. You have 3 different types of users. You have knowledge seekers. You have people who are looking for knowledge and they don't want to speak to anybody. And they're not looking to kind of have confirmation that what they're searching and have found is correct. They just want to figure out the information, work through it, be done with it. Those are people that are going to your help center today. We have a solution for those users. It's called Instant Answers. So they go to look for something in your knowledge base, and instead of being provided an index of 287 articles, it's an actual answer, a comprehensive answer to the keyword search that you just asked for. So we can address those users. The next type of user you have is the one who wants confirmation, right? They want to know that the answer they have found is correct, and they want to be told, you're good to go, you can move on. Those are people that engage with AI agents today, whether it's through a chat, whether it's through a bot. They want to have conversation. That is the way in which they want to get to XYZ outcome or XYZ knowledge, and we can cover that. And then, of course, you have your people who want white glove service, right? They want to speak with somebody. And how can we supercharge your humans that are in the loop with AI? So we provide them with an AI co-pilot. So whether you have knowledge seekers, people who are looking for information but need confirmation, or whether you have users who are looking for white glove service, Maven is the only solution out there that it can address for each one of these scenarios and provide a flywheel approach where if information is provided by somebody, not from a knowledge source, but from an individual, we can then take that information, incorporate it back into the system. So next time Maven has the answer for your users. So we're the only system out there doing that today. And I'm excited to speak with anybody who's interested in leveraging AI for their customer experience.
Nicely done. Nicely done. They hired good in you, Meg, 100%. But one thing we didn't talk about just real quick is your role and how is success defined for you? Could say a couple words on that.
Yeah, of course. And go-to-market account executive is going to be working with new logos. So organizations that are just starting to think about how they can deploy technologies like this. And my success is the success of the customers that decide to put their faith in me and try to leverage Maven to improve their cost centers and enhance the employee/customer experience. So at the end of the day, my success is those organizations that feel empowered by Maven AGI to go forth and use their humans for things that are much more meaningful than what they had been using them for yesterday.
And I know you can't predict the future, but if we have you on a year from now, what is your prediction? If everything goes well, what difference will I see?
I'll probably have spent the last 6 months in the Caribbean. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I hope so. That would be awesome.
What we'll be talking about is taking that next step. Because again, I talked about the crawl and the walk approach, which is crawl is getting answers to questions that are accurate, very accurate. The walk approach is personalization, things that are specific to you as XYZ entity as an employee of IBM or as a customer of IBM, right? Getting the answers that are personalized to you as an individual. And then the run approach is, again, actions. Maven taking actions on behalf of either the customers or the employees themselves. So what the future looks like a year from today is a lot of organizations leveraging actions to achieve specific outcomes. And again, being able to repurpose their workforce to more strategic initiatives within their organizations.
All right, last question. Any new books or anything, just personally, anything you're learning that you want to share with? I always like to end with some kind of learning or something.
I actually just read this phenomenal book. And when I say read, I listen to books on Audible these days because it's just a good use of my time when I'm in the car or sitting in the sauna, Yeah. But I recently finished the book, The House in the Cerulean Sea, and it's phenomenal. For anybody who enjoys fantasy with a little bit of a message for all of us, it is truly an incredible book that gives us great perspective into the biases that we live with every day and how we can be more thoughtful with the things that we believe to be true that may not be true. So,
what was it again?
The House in the Cerulean Sea.
The House in the Cerulean Sea. All right, fantastic. Wow, it's like you're prepared. I did not give her that question prior. I promise you that. And I lied to you. Question: where can folks reach you and reach Maven AGI?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Meg Gallagher or Megan Gallagher. You can just type in Maven AGI. You can find me there. I don't have much of a social media presence. I kind of shut it all down other than that. But you can also reach me at MEGAN@Maven, MAVEN, AGI.com. So either LinkedIn or shoot me an email.
Thanks for being here. You're the best.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on today and giving me the opportunity to talk shop with you, Al.
Yeah, it's always fun. Really fun, really fun. And listeners, as always, hit us on almartintalksdata@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. And until next time, we shall see you on the podcast. See y'all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.